Hello, in this episode we're going to look at how to use the nightly builds of the Flex SDK in the Flash Builder for beta. Normally this is really easy to do, but unfortunately there is a bug in Flash Builder beta that's been released that it has problems with dealing with multiple versions of the Flex 4 SDK. We'll take a look at that in just a second. So to start, we want to actually go to the opensource.adobe.com website, and we want to visit the Adobe Flex SDK. Inside here we're going to go to the more downloads section, and we're going to choose that we want to look at all Gumbo downloads. From here you can see that we have many nightly builds that are available, and we are actually going to go ahead and grab the most recent nightly build. Now I already have this downloaded and unzipped on my desktop, just so we don't have to watch that happen. And you'll see that unzipped I have the Flex SDK 400925. So what we want to do is actually make this available to Flash Builder. And just for convenience sake, I go ahead and just keep all of my SDKs that I download here inside the SDK folder of the Adobe Flash Builder plugin. So I'm going to drag this guy in here, and you'll see that now he's there along with the two versions of the SDK that came installed, 3.4 and 4.0. Now right here is where we start to run into trouble. We have a version of 4.0 and a version of 4.0 build 9215. And what that's going to happen is the Flash Builder beta that's been released doesn't deal well with having multiple versions of the Flex 4 SDK in use. So let's go take a look at what that looks like. The first step is to actually install our new SDK as an available SDK for our projects. So you're going to go into Flash Builder Preferences, choose the Flash Builder section, and then select Installed Flex SDKs. Here you can see our other two SDKs are installed, and we're going to choose Add. Navigate to the location of our SDK, select it, and then hit Choose. I'm going to rename this SDK to Build 9215, just so I can keep it separate. So now you can see that we have another SDK available to us. We're going to choose OK, and we're going to create a new project, new Flex project. We're going to call it Demo, and then we're going to change this project to use our new SDK that we've downloaded. So we're going to right click on the project, choose Properties, go to the Flex compiler. We're told to use a specific SDK, which is our Flex Build 9215. Select OK. Yes, I understand the HTML wrapper is going to be updated, and let it redo. Now you'll notice right off the bat we have an error. An internal build error has occurred. You can right click for more information, and what that's going to do is actually just launch a browser to take you to the Flex site to talk about different compiler errors that you might get. Not very useful. If you Google if you follow the directions here and Google the specific error, you'll find references to two of the articles I've linked in this blog post. But essentially, what it comes down to is you can't have, in the current beta release, beta 1 of Flash Builder, you can't have more than one version of the Flex 4 SDK in use. Now, there's two solutions to this problem. One is only use one version of the SDK for all of your projects. But if you come up against a situation where you absolutely have to use different versions of the SDK, then what you can do is actually create a separate workspace for each of the projects that have to work with a different version of the SDK, because then you're only going to have the projects in each workspace that need the specific version. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to right click on this, go back to Properties, and we're going to change this back to use the current default SDK. Now all of my projects are set to use the default SDK. So what I can do now is in the Flash Builder Preferences, I can go back and change what the default SDK is to use my nightly build. Now, rebuilding here, you'll see now we have build errors for both of our projects. And it's true, we have it, but restarting Flex Builder will actually make those errors go away. If you're using the same version of the SDK in all of your projects, that error should go away. And that'll allow us to come back and build our project successfully. Now, we are going to run into another problem, so I'm going to say simple text here, specify a text property of hello there, and save this, which is going to cause it to compile, and we're going to get another error. The error this time, however, is about our net monitor not being available. The Flash Builder includes this new network monitor tool, which allows us to actually monitor data as it goes back and forth using the RPC services and Blaze and Lifecycle. And the open source SDKs don't include the SWIC that's required to make that work. That's only available through the actual release builds that come with the production version of Flash Builder. And so you have one of two options at this point. You can copy netmon.swic from one of the other SDKs where it actually exists, or for our project, since we're not going to use it, we can actually drop back into that Flex compiler settings and disable the network monitor by unchecking the box that says enable network monitor. Select OK, and we'll see that all of our errors are gone, and now we can actually compile and run our demo. So that's the basic rundown on using nightly build SDKs of the Flex 4 SDK inside the Flash Builder Beta. Thanks for tuning in.